My golden brother hired a private investigator to expose me as a failure, but instead, he uncovered my multi-million-dollar success. Blood is thicker than water, they say, but no one ever talks about what happens when the blood turns cold. My brother, James, was the golden child, the prodigy who could do no wrong. In our affluent Connecticut neighborhood, he was the poster boy for perfection. Captain of the soccer team, Ivy League graduate, and now a thriving investment banker in New York City. To everyone, including our parents, he was a shining star. Me? I was always the shadow. Growing up, James had a way of soaking up all the oxygen in a room. His achievements were celebrated with lavish parties and endless praise, while my quiet victories, a poetry award here, a small scholarship there, barely registered. By the time I hit my mid-20s, I'd had enough. I packed up my meager savings, moved to Seattle, and started my life over. I hadn't spoken to James much since. We exchanged obligatory holiday greetings, but that was it. It seemed we both preferred the distance, or so I thought. It all began with an unexpected email. A man named Vincent Caldwell introduced himself as a private investigator, hired to look into my affairs. Initially, I thought it was a scam, but Vincent wasn't asking for money, he was offering information. "Your brother hired me," he wrote bluntly. "He's trying to dig up dirt on you. Thought you should know." My heart clenched as I read the words. Why? Why would James do something like this? We weren't close, but we weren't enemies. At least I didn't think so. Vincent attached a file of his findings, and with trembling hands I clicked it open. It was surreal to see my life laid out like that. Where I lived, my business records, even snapshots of me walking into my office. But instead of scandal, the file painted a picture of quiet success. I ran a boutique software company specializing in cybersecurity solutions. Over the past 5 years, my client base had grown to include some of the biggest names in tech and finance. My company's valuation, a cool $18 million. I leaned back in my chair, stunned. James thought he'd find failure, but all he'd uncovered was my triumph. And for some reason he couldn't stand it. He was the egregious error, the smallest of doubts. It told me something about his courage. I decided to confront him. But not before I understood his motives. So I did what any curious sibling would do. I hired Vincent to investigate James. His approach was revealing and frightening. What he found didn't surprise me. James's golden boy life wasn't as perfect as it seemed. His investment firm had suffered significant losses, and he'd taken a hit to his reputation. Worse, he was drowning in debt from maintaining his high-flying lifestyle. Knowing this made his actions clearer. He wasn't trying to expose me as a failure. He was trying to reassure himself that I was one. The confrontation came during Thanksgiving. Our parents' grand home was as opulent as ever, with a long dining table set for 20 and a fireplace roaring in the background. James arrived late, all smiles and charm as usual. I waited until dessert to strike. "James," I said, keeping my tone light but pointed, "do you know Vincent Caldwell?" His fork froze mid-air, and for a split second his mask slipped. Then he laughed. "Can't say I do. Who's that?" "The private investigator you hired to dig into my life." The room fell silent. Our mother's hand fluttered to her pearl necklace, and our father frowned deeply. James's jaw tightened, but he recovered quickly. "That's absurd," he said, his voice steady but cold. "Why would I waste my time on that?" I pulled out my phone and opened the email from Vincent. I slid it across the table to him. "You tell me." He stared at the screen, his face pale. For the first time in his life, James looked small. "I don't understand," our mother interjected. "Why would you do something like this?" James didn't answer. Instead, he stood abruptly, knocking over his chair. "I don't have to listen to this," he snapped, and stormed out of the room. The fallout was immediate. My parents were horrified, but also confused. They'd always seen James as the perfect son, incapable of malice. I explained everything, sparing no detail. For once, they truly listened to me. A few weeks later, I received an apology email from James. It wasn't heartfelt, more of a formality, but it was something. He admitted to feeling jealous and threatened by my success, which he had stumbled upon accidentally while indulging his curiosity. I didn't respond. Instead, I focused on the life I had built, surrounded by people who valued me for who I was, not who they wanted me to be. It's funny how things work out. James and I still aren't close, but I no longer feel like the shadow to his light. In exposing my supposed failures, he only highlighted my resilience and success, and for that, I'll always be grateful. Because sometimes, even betrayal can be a gift.